The mirror neuron does not know the difference between it and others, and is the reason why we are so dependent of social validation and why we want to fit in. We are in a constant duality between how we see ourselves and how others see us. This can result in confusion in terms of identity and self-esteem, and brain scans show that we experience these negative emotions even before we are aware of them.
Now this mirroring thing is such a friggin' game that you don't tend to focus on what you love, you focus on what you hate. Generally, you want your parents' approval. A lot of things, your parents are very, very influential in your life, and if they don't approve you, you want their approval. So the parent that you always get the approval of, you trust in their love. Just like friends, you trust in them. It's the ones you don't get along with that you happen to have respect for. If you have, you'll always love your parents, no matter how horrible they are to you. The fact that they're horrible to you sort of breaks your heart. So you'll always be wanting their approval. So because you're paying so much attention, without you knowing it, you are mirroring them. So now you've turned into them, and you can't notice it. So that's why when you see a complaint in somebody else, when you see somebody else doing something that you don't like, it's actually you. The only thing that you're looking at is yourself, but you can't see yourself. Everything that you hate out in the world is something you hate from inside of yourself, and everything that you love is something that you love within yourself. Because everything external of yourself is you. You are paying attention to something. The only reason something grabs your attention is because you're looking at yourself. You're always looking at a reflection of something that grabs your attention. Like, there's a billion different things going on in the universe. Why do you only notice the one thing that grabs your attention? Billions of things going on. So why do you think it's only this that you pay attention to, that one tunnel vision? Because it's something of interest to you. What else do you have interest in other than yourself? Things that yourself finds interesting. Which is, again, if you love something, it's something that you love about yourself. If you hate something, it's because that's something in yourself. So when you give advice to other people, it's best that you reflect and see, in how many ways do I not listen to my own advice? Because that's where your insanity is. It's such a friggin' game. But as soon as you see your own reflection, you won't do it anymore. If you think it's so wrong for other people to do the act that you disagree with, trust, as soon as you see yourself doing it, you'll stop in your tracks. Because it's you. I'll continue. Moving on.
But when we are self-aware, we can alter misplaced emotions because we control the thoughts that cause them. This is a neurochemical consequence of how memories become labeled and retrieved, and how they are restored through protein synthesis. Self-observing profoundly changes the way our brain works. It activates the self-regulating neocortical regions, which give us an incredible amount of control over our feelings. Every time we do this, our rationality and emotional resilience are strengthened. When we are not being self-aware, most of our thoughts and actions are impulsive. And the idea that we are randomly reacting and not making conscious choices is instinctively frustrating. The brain resolves this by creating explanations for our behavior and physically rewriting it into our memories through memory reconsolidation, making us believe that we were in control of our actions. This is also called backward rationalization, and it can leave most of our negative emotions unresolved and ready to be triggered at any time. They become a constant fuel to our confusion, as our brain will keep trying to justify why we behaved irrationally.
Now, this part is, it again is that accepting and allowing. What I found I've always had this really, really strong connection with God. Abused when I was really young, and had a mother that was right into horoscopes, which is a study of the biggest reflection of humanity, basically. And my mother, she used to do the charts. She used to do the whole deal and told me what I was going through. And she would always tell me I'm in a learning process. When life was hell, I was in a learning process. So that's basically every time. Well, when I went through this really abusive divorce, and I had to find, an answer to a particular problem I was dealing with, I pray to God, you got to give me an answer, and He generally always comes through. And this particular time, the next day, I'm phoning lawyers, and everybody's saying they can't do a damn thing to help me, and I'm getting irritated and frustrated, and um, uh, then this guy is didn't want to tell me he's a lawyer, and said that if I ever repeated this as a legal advice, he would deny he ever said that. But he said, God wants me to talk to you, and you're supposed to take everything that was done and do something with it. And right then, it was like an automatic knowing that the whole experience I was going through was like being in a classroom. I was learning something. And when it was over, I would basically graduate and know what to do with it all, which at the end is like the example of this YouTube channel, this book that's being written, this water bottle concept is all part of, okay, everything that was done when it was all over, crashed and burned, kind of put the whole pieces of the puzzle. It's like, now I know what to do. And it's not to say that I have the answers for everybody. It's more or less to share the information that we all have the answers to everything. But you have to play the game out. Just like this global experience of everything crashing, well, everybody wants the system to crash, but yet when it crashes, we're all doom and gloom and the world is going to end. And it's like, why focus on the doom and gloom? You want it to crash. This is what crashing looks like. Everybody's saying it's the end, and it's like, yeah, in order to start a new beginning, you kind of have to have one end. But nobody's focusing on the new beginnings. We're all focusing on the end and doom and gloom, and we're all going to suffer. And but it is our classroom right now that sometimes let yourself be in that classroom. Just know that you're going to have, a graduation one day, and it's all good. So when you're involved in the chaos of things, when you're being irrational, you're doing what you know, and you're just in school trying to know better. And you won't be able to know better until you go through the lesson. It's more or less like globally, we are experiencing hell on earth. Why would we be experiencing hell on earth? So we know everything that's wrong. So when we see the value, the end result of doing everything that's wrong, we will know damn well that we can't even make one mistake, in this new beginning. We will see the value of even the smallest thing of doing something wrong. When we see censorship is such a bad thing, we might want to make sure that we censor ourselves, censor what we view, because we will mirror it. We will imitate it. When you start seeing films that are shooting and murdering people, we're going to create a society that's just going to mirror that image. And we're going to say, well, not everybody does that. Well, no, not everybody, just everybody with the right circumstances, the right life path will mirror it perfectly. Somebody that isn't getting that acceptance from society, somebody that has lost their mind, somebody that is at least self-aware and who has been tortured enough, will get influenced by the smallest little thing. A child can see, a sexual picture and start acting out on their beliefs of what they've seen in this sexual picture. You may think that, oh, it's just advertising, it's no big deal, but in a child's mind, they will perceive it being something, that could end up being psychopathic behavior. But it's just one friggin' picture that we didn't see the value, that that's something we should have never let out into society, because it will create our society. Negative words should never ever be spoken, because we will make that negative word grow into something even bigger. But we don't see the value in that. We think, oh, it's just no big deal, but this is why hell is going on earth, so that we can really know the full extent of even the smallest aspect of evil. We see a lot of religious people go around saying, yeah, we're sinners. We'll be saved, after we're dead. But it's your sin, the smallest sin, that you're not even aware that you're doing, that actually has the potential to harm somebody's life, and you don't even know the domino effect of that one little sin. You think you can just ask Jesus for forgiveness, and that's your idea of repentance. It's like, no, if you've hurt somebody, it's your responsibility to make sure you heal what you've just destroyed. Whatever you tear down, you've got the responsibility of building up. And trust me, a lot of us are tearing down an awful lot of shit that we have that responsibility to rebuild. That is the new world. That is our future, is to recognize and become aware of what we've put out into the universe. And, through our lessons, we will know that we can't be doing that anymore. There is huge value. We will destroy not only, ourselves, but our future, our children's lives. We don't have that connection to our children's lives and our children's children, our grandchildren. We don't have that foresight to look ahead at what we're going to do to our world. So sometimes when you're lost in that chaos, it's like, let it be okay. You're doing your best with what you know. Soon you will know better. And it ain't going to be an easy lesson, but that's why we need to build each other up more than tear people down. Give somebody encouragement instead of discouragement. Send as much love and zero hate. You send hate out, you let hate grow. Moving on.
All this complex and almost schizophrenic subconscious behavior is the result of a vastly parallel distributed system in our brain. There is no specific center of consciousness. The appearance of a unity is in fact each of these separate circuits being enabled and being expressed at one particular moment in time. Our experiences are constantly changing our neural connections, physically altering the parallel system that is our consciousness. Direct modifications to this can have surreal consequences that bring into question what and where consciousness really is. If your left cerebral hemisphere were to be disconnected from the right, as is the case in split brain patients, you would normally still be able to talk and think from the left hemisphere, while your right hemisphere would have very limited cognitive capacities. Your left brain will not miss the right part, even though this profoundly changes your perception. One consequence of this is that you can no longer describe the right half of someone's face, but you will never mention it. You will never see it as a problem or even realize that something has changed. Since this affects more than just your perception of the real world and also applies to your mental images, it is not just a sensory problem, but a fundamental change in your consciousness. Each neuron has a voltage, which can change when ions flow in or out of the cell. Once a neuron's voltage has reached a certain level, it will fire an electrical signal to other cells, which will repeat the process. When many neurons fire at the same time, we can measure these changes in the form of a wave. Brainwaves underpin almost everything going on in our minds, including memory, attention, and even intelligence. As they oscillate at different frequencies, they get classified in bands such as alpha, theta, and gamma.